Mike's Mailbag. This is the maiden voyage of this attempt at answering your questions. Mike's the expert. You are very inquisitive, so let's have at it. You ready, Mike?
I am ready.
Our first question from @Gary Gambin. The Leafs potentially need third and fourth line centers for next season. Let's assume they don't land JT and don't bring Bozak back. What realistic options are out there via trade or free agency that would be better than what they can promote from the Marlies?
Well, I think the fourth line center is going to be internal. I mean, they signed Par Lindholm out of the Swedish league. They have Miro Aaltonen, who scored 20 goals with the Marlies, and Freddie Gauthier. So I think that they're going to try and solve the fourth line center position with what was already on hand. And I would say right now the leading candidate would be Aaltonen because he's played well with the Marlies and acclimated himself to North American hockey. So I think that's the direction. Third line center is the quandary, because the popular thought was potentially a Joe Thornton, but because he'd be UFA and he's been injured for all year, so they might be able to get him relatively cheap, and there would be the possibility of him reuniting with Patrick Marleau. I'm less enthusiastic about that now simply because he was out for half a year. He had major knee surgery on one knee last year and now the other knee this year. So sure, it may be coming to the end. Plus, it sounds like he's willing to take a lesser money to stay in San Jose. So I think it's going to probably be a trade, but it can't be for somebody who is making a ton of money because they have a ton of cap space for a year, but then going forward, they don't have as much with the contract signings of Marner, Matthews, and Nylander. So, and there is a possibility if they don't see something in the market that they like, that they will move Nylander to the middle, but they won't do that until after they got Nylander signed to the contract. So,
well, look, you have options.
Yeah.
On Thornton, you wonder how much he has left in the tank. To me, he feels more like a deadline pickup. Somebody just a little bit of sprinkle on top to chip in terms of a full season. I don't know. Our next question @Jillian McLeod 05. What player options and or package from the current Leafs Marlies would you offer for a top 2 D-man?
Well, it would depend on who the top 2 D-man is. The popular name has been Noah Hanifin. And I mean, I postured on I think a previous convo that a deal like their first round pick, which is 25th overall, Kasperi Kapanen, and probably Garrett Sparks would get Hanifin from Carolina. Now there are rumors that Vancouver is very interested in Hanifin, and Carolina wants Carolina wants the number 7 overall pick and something. If they want the number 7 overall pick and something really good from Vancouver, then the package that I indicated probably is not enough, and then I think Carolina is pricing themselves out of the market. But I think it's going to take basically their first and a young forward, either Kapanen, maybe Connor Brown, which I wouldn't really like them to trade because I think he's a good player. But they're going to have to give up something to get something. And if it's a team that needs the goaltender, I think Garrett Sparks is going to be a guy that they use as a piece in a deal.
Hey, one of Gus Katsaros' favorite Leafs is Connor Brown, along with Zach Hyman, because those two guys are serious puck retrievers. And if you're part of the analytics crew and you want to make sure you have the puck and possession's a big thing for you, those are your guys. The next question comes from Gary McAllister @GMMcAllister15. Think the Leafs would have any interest in Flames prospect Rasmus Andersson? Possible trade, and what would you think it would cost the Leafs? Goat or Levo to get it done?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Leafs would be interested in Anderson. So, it's funny because the Flames have come up as a potential team that the Leafs would trade with, and if you look at what the Leafs have to offer and what the Flames' needs are, they sort of match. The Flames don't have a first round pick because they traded in the Travis Hamonic deal. The Flames are loaded on defense, not only at the NHL level, but they have Adam Fox and they have Villamaki and Oliver Shillington, who was a highly ranked prospect, but is sort of a little lesser now. And in that instance, they might be open to a deal like the one I just mentioned obviously the target would be somebody like Dougie Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would probably cost a first and a captain at least, but I think that's more of a possibility than the Leafs trading for an unknown commodity like Anderson. They really, I think at this point, the Leafs organization has too many 5, 6, 7 options on defense. They need 2s, 3s, 4s, or 1s, and I don't see them trading to other organizations for a guy who is a borderline Marley / Leaf.
Yeah, the time to go get those pieces is now, and if not now, it will be very soon, right, Mike? I mean, how many more seasons like the past two do the Leafs need to have before the organization is confronted with the reality that it is time to contend, right? So we're in that situation. Last one from Corey at Skate Lace Bite. Love that name. Where do you see Carl Grundstrom fitting into the Leafs lineup next season?
Well, Grundstrom has come to play with the Marlies the last 2 playoffs. Last year, he scored 3 goals in 6 playoff games as a 19-year-old. And this year, he's been very effective on their top line. I think he's going to get a long look at training camp. He has an outside chance of making the Leafs out of training camp based on what they do in the offseason and how many spots are open on the wing, how many players get moved out in deals. But more than likely, if you look at what they've done with Janssen, what they've done with Kapanen, what they've done with Nylander, they've kept them down with the Marlies for at least a year, let them sort of acclimate to the North American game, let them get some professional experience, let them know what the Leafs expect of him as a two-way player, and then they call him up. So I think he probably ends up with the Marlies for most of the year, but I could see him playing some games with the Leafs.
So
they really like him.
That's Mike's mailbag. Hey, Mike, I just got a call from Kramer. He needs your mailbag as collateral at the LaGuardia airport. He's gambling again. Anybody who watches Seinfeld will get that. And if you don't watch Seinfeld, come on, it's the greatest sitcom ever. Hashtag Ask Mike on Twitter, at the Leafs Convo, at Mike in Buffalo, at I Am Sports Heart for your questions going forward. We're going to have this segment potentially every podcast going forward, potentially every second podcast. We're also going to mix in some forgotten Leafs. Mike, before we let you go, I just want to do some bullet points on the things we talked about. So first off, the Marlies Stars, Game 4 of the Calder Cup final. Toronto's up 2-1 in the series. Does it get back to Rico?
I think it does. And one question mark that I haven't seen an update on from guys like Paul Hendrick and Lance Hornby, who were down in Texas, was that Frederic Gauthier left the game in the second period in Game 3, and I don't believe came back. His status is questionable based on that for Game 4, and if he's out, then they'll be probably shifting around some things on their roster, so we'll have to keep an eye out.
So the Marlies are up 2-1 if they win Games 4 and 5 down in Tejas. It is certainly over, and the organization will win its first Calder Cup. I think they're going to win it. It's just a matter of which location, Texas or Toronto. Come the start of the next NHL season, will DJ Smith be on the bench for the Maple Leafs?
No. I think he's going to get the Islander job, but it's not etched in stone. If, as somebody I talked to earlier this morning said, if he was definitely the choice, he'd be named already, unless Lou wanted to wait a few days to let the dust settle. But I have a feeling he wants to get a chance to talk to coaches out there who may not be free right now, like Barry Trotz.
Just an interesting, well, maybe not interesting, but a side note to that. DJ Smith's wife works in Toronto now, and I worked with her for over a decade, and DJ Smith and his wife Christy are two of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. Salt of the earth, just good down-home people with tons of skill, and I wish DJ Smith and Christy nothing but the best and success going forward. They've done really well to this point, and I think bigger and better days are ahead for them, whether they're in Toronto or on the island. Remains to be seen. And the Austin Matthews, Judd Moldaver thing with the Orr Hockey Group, is this much ado about nothing? Do you think at some point, things will get ironed out, or should we be keeping our eye on a potential showdown at some point?
I don't know about a showdown, but I don't blame people for being unsettled when. I mean, remember there was a lack of feeling settled when before he signed his entry level deal because there was talk about Lou Lamoriello
Mm-hmm.
being a little chintzy with the bonus structure, and like I until he's locked up, until he's safely away for 8 years. I mean, I understand fans being a little queasy, but I don't foresee any problems for everything I've seen. Austin Matthews loves it in Toronto and wants to win a
Yeah.
cup for the Leafs. So I think that's where it's
I
going.
don't know if we should compare him to Connor McDavid. Actually, I know we should never compare him to Connor McDavid. Austin Matthews he might be the Jean Beliveau of our time. I don't know how you want to put it, but he's not Connor Crosby. I mean, and I don't want to disparage the kid, but is he at that level, Mike? Last point, we got to go.
Um, I think he's just slightly below, but I mean, when you score 40 goals as a
No.
rookie and then you average over 40 goals in your second year, I mean, he's a phenomenal
Yeah.
talent. He's a franchise player. I think he deserves to make more than Eichel, more than
Yeah.
Taves or Kane. Remember, it's based on percentage,
Sure.
so he's going to make $11 to $12 million a year.
Okay, and he is a 1A, but
Yes.
Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, your buddy, and Connor McDavid are who they are for a reason, right? Marcel Dion was not Wayne Gretzky. These guys are amazing, but let's have
Keep it in
keep it in
perspective.
perspective. Mike, we got to go. Congratulations on Mike's mailbag. You got through it successfully. We'll talk to you soon.